Hey Kelly, how's it going?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Still got a couple of minutes to go, so we're just gonna allow people to get settled in. How's your morning been so far?
Let me see if I can make a viewing party on my page.
All right, we got 1 minute left.
Perfect. If I knew how to do a viewing party on my page, that would be fantastic.
All right, it is now officially 11 a.m. April 24th, 2020. As I like to see on the Daily Show, I don't know, we're day like almost 40 of the coronavirus quarantine. How you holding in there over there, Kelly?
Oh, it's been a rough one trying to wear multiple hats of being a mom and a business owner, but I think we're all surviving and doing the best we can,
Yeah, the most important thing is, of course, show up every day and just keep doing what we got to do, but just keep showing up every day and we'll figure it out.
I agree.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Today's webinar will be introduced by Kelly. I'll go ahead and let you take over from here.
Great. So good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us. We have been trying to put together these very pointed webinars for our business community, and today we're going to offer a collaborative discussion on cyber incident response policies. As Michael introduced us shortly at the beginning of the call, my name is Kelly Bethay, and I am the president of Heed Consulting Group and a co-founder with Mr. Michael Bowers for our group. So I have a pretty extensive background in risk management with a heavy concentration in insurance. And that's a marriage and complement to Mike's very extensive IT background and his concentration in continuity and business practices around your IT environment. So we started this company in 2019 when we realized that by putting together both of our best efforts, we could really create something dynamic and amazing to the business community. So it has been a labor of love for the two of us over the past 7 months, but it has definitely been worth it. And I look forward to seeing where we can help you all with your cyber needs. With that being said, I think, Mike, unless you have anything else, I'm going to turn it over to you to start our cyber incident policy response.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. I appreciate that. As you mentioned, we've come together with our experience, our diverse backgrounds, yours being a risk management from an insurance underwriting standpoint. On the IT side, I've been working with companies for years, whether it be as a consultant or directors of IT and IT managers. And so managing risk was not always what we called it. And managing IT was more so about keeping users up and working in the past. But now there's more of a need to pay attention to cybersecurity and what's going on, because there are attacks that happen, and even a small incident can cause a big problem for organizations. So by offering this, what we've done today is we're trying to educate business owners on what it means to actually develop a cyber incident response policy and not just wait for things to happen and see what happens when they do. So developing a policy to manage risk and have a set of instructions is key. So getting right into it, the first question that we usually get from people is, what is a cyber incident response policy in the first place, and how does it impact their business? Well, and it's a cyber incident response. It's a set of instructions that your employees have, so that if something were to happen, it's essentially a book. And there are going to be things that are going to happen all the time. This is guaranteed to happen. That they're either going to be ransomware attacks. It's going to be data loss. It's going to be somebody stealing something. It's a cyber issue. It's going to be a phishing attack. What you want to be able to do is have a set of rules in place so that people are not trying to figure things out on their own, which is oftentimes what happens when there's no set of rules in place ahead of time, and that can be very expensive. And so having something in place so that people can refer to is what an actual cyber incident response policy is. It's not just about saying, oh, we're going to be cyber resilient. It's actually giving people a set of instructions on what they can do and how they can respond to an incident. For example, if you have a ransomware attack, okay, if it happens on one particular computer, do we shut the computer down? Do we shut the network down? Do we start to ask people who's in charge? And someone has to take control of the incident and start to mitigate the issue. And that could mean a matter of contacting your underwriter. There's a lot of things involved in what goes on after an incident actually takes place. So you don't want people to start trying to figure things out themselves, especially if they go start looking for free tools. That can be a deadly and even more dangerous path to go down. Next is, why do companies need a cyber incident response policy? This is another question that we get a lot of times, because people are just like, well, we're just a few people here in the building, and we're not a really big company, or no one really has ever done anything to us, or we have pretty good antivirus, or or even maybe we even have cyber insurance already, so why do we need to have a policy? Well, one of the things that people don't realize is that when you do have a cyber insurance policy, those are one of the situations where you're going to need to have, when you have a cyber insurance policy, you're going to have a strict guidelines to even get a good claim from your underwriter. If you have an underwriter who's requiring that you have certain guidelines in place before an attack happens, so that you are responding properly, contacting the right people, scrubbing the network properly, these are the things that are going to satisfy your cyber insurance underwriters and giving you a good claim. Because if your network hasn't been threatened yet, I guarantee that it will be. We have clients that have had all kinds of outages for all kinds of reasons. And when people don't know what to do, that's why you want to have one. Plus, if you're just looking to deal with risk management from an organization as a whole, that's another reason to have one. Because if you allow people to make their own decisions, I say it over and over again, but we've seen things go awry. We've seen people make decisions and they don't want to bring them up later. If there's no direction, there's panic. And when there's panic, that's when things really start to get weird, and you don't want to have that kind of thing happen. What type of businesses need a cyber incident response policy? That's a great question, because when people think, well, if we're not following under like any kind of medical, or we're not under kind of ISO compliance, why do we need any kind of an incident response policy? Why do we need this? Or what kind of a company would fall under that? The truth is, no companies have to have one, but companies who need one are those who are trying to minimize their exposure to risk. If you don't want to just take chances with your organization, especially if you are an investor in a company, or if you have to satisfy investors, if you have a board, you're going to want to prove that you have a plan for when something goes wrong. So businesses who want to minimize their exposure to risk definitely want to have one. Those who have insurance policies. If you have an insurance policy, you're going to have a response policy, so that when anything happens, you can prove to them that you've got a plan in place. So what may start off as a small little attack won't grow to a system-wide issue. So having insurance policy holders, they may require this as well. Organizations that are what we call high availability businesses. For example, if you're part of the supply chain, especially right now people are in the food industry, or if you're in any kind of supplies to businesses that are operating, you cannot really afford to be down. And so having a response to when things happen is important for organizations like that. And so you may think that you're nothing, but you can have an avocado company, and which is one of our clients, And to have a response to if something were to happen if the server crashes, you can't just have everybody going up in the server room and saying, okay, you know what, let's just start unplugging things. No, let's reboot the server. You got to have a plan, otherwise things can get even worse than they already are, especially when it comes to cyber incidents, because many times an incident can really do its damage after a reboot, essentially locking you out of the server. If no one understands that, people just go into the server room, start unplugging things and thinking that they shut off the power, they're going to fix an issue, they can actually make it worse. And many times a ransomware or cyber attackers are anticipating that you're going to do that. And so they will have it so that you'll have an issue, that the server, the systems will act weird, and then the second you reboot, you can no longer get in. So being able to have control of that and knowing what's going on before you do that is very key to containing the damage with any kind of a cyber attack. And then, of course, organizations that fall under any kind of a compliance like a HIPAA or a PCI or certain different ISOs like 27001, you're going to have the need to show part of your compliance is what you're going to do if, say, for instance, an unauthorized device enters into your network is now trying to infiltrate. We had this happen for a client once where to supply their auditors, they had to show exactly how they were going to respond to an attack. So if a device showed up on the network, first of all, you had to show that you had the equipment to see that something has arrived. You want to be able to narrow it down to where it is physically in your facilities, and then also have a policy for blocking that, and so that it can never connect again. And then you may also need to have something to show what it accessed or tried to access, whether it's successfully or not. So when you fall into certain compliances, they require more engagement. That's when you need a cyber incident response policy as well. Last one here, not say last ones in the world, but organizations that have investors or shareholders who just want to make sure that, listen, it's almost like having theft for a home or a business. If someone comes in, we'll make sure we can get it back. Same thing with your business. If you have an organization that's making money every day, especially if you're providing a service or anything, a product, you want to make sure that you can come back from that. And so part of your business resilience is having policies in place so that someone can stop an attack from spreading across the network or across the company or whatever it may be. So these are very key to understanding who needs one. If anybody out there who wants to minimize their risk and get good policies covered in case there is an incident, if you are a part of other people's supply chain, whatever it may be, those are the organizations who are going to need a cyber incident response policy. The next question we get often is how to build a cyber incident response policy. Like, it's not just a single one-page document. It's not even just an idea or a concept. It really does take some work to get it done, but once you get it done and then you continue to modify it, it will make the biggest difference in the world. So what makes a useful cyber incident response policy? Well, first of all, you got to have a risk assessment to even know what you have out there that you need to protect, so that you can then understand, okay, well, we have these assets here, whether it be data, it can be servers, it can be VPNs, it could be manufacturing. When you know what you have and you know the levels of risk that they're exposed to, that's when you can create your policies, because if you have if you know what's there, you know what to say to do. To give an example, server. If the server were to experience issues and the backups are not proceeding, what do? We check the backups, we try to perform tests, test restores, we reboot the application, we check for updates on the software. But for that moment, for that scenario, there are a set of standards that you follow, that you adhere to. And so when you perform a risk assessment and you know that that your backups are important, you know that you have to put attention to them. How you respond to an incident is then documented. You can respond to that accordingly. Next is you want to delegate someone to own the responsibility of your cyber incidents, responding as a policy itself. So there's a policy that you want to respond to, but you need someone to manage that effort. It's almost like when you have someone who's responsible for maintenance. You don't just say, okay, office manager, we had a problem with the plumbing, find a plumber. No, you assign someone to oversee that department. When it comes to cybersecurity, it may be IT, it could be someone in accounting, it could be someone in admin, it could be someone in operations, but you got to delegate the responsibility to someone who's going to oversee it as a project for the company, almost like your escape route in the event of an earthquake or a flood or wherever you're at, tornado, depending on part of the country or part of the world you're in. If someone is going to say, hey, listen, guys, whenever we have this incident, we must all go to parking lot C and everybody grab your things. You go out this door over here, you know what you do. If you just say, hey guys, what do we do? I don't know. And everybody's making their own decisions. People are getting clobbered. But when someone can take leadership of that, then they can help get everyone else safely. Same thing with a cyber incident. When you have a cyber attack and you say, hey, listen, this is ransomware. The plan says we must stop everybody. Everybody back away from your machines. When somebody can take leadership at that moment, they know what to do. If it's not them, at least they have the guidelines in place for somebody else. And then, of course, you want to create your policies around the areas of exposure that you get after the risk assessment, because just saying, okay, well, there's ever a virus, we're going to run a virus scan, that's not a policy. I mean, it may be a policy, but it's not going to be an effective policy, especially if you want to have something that's going to effectively address varying threats. Because nowadays, you can have something that's attacking one machine, it can attack a network share. You got to have policies that go along with what you have. So if you have people who have a SharePoint and you're seeing something on SharePoint, you need to have a policy that addresses that. But when you know that, when you do your risk assessment, you say, hey, listen, from a risk assessment, you can see that you have certain data sitting on your SharePoint, you have certain data sitting in your OneDrive, some in Dropbox, especially as a company's working from home. Having this information out there puts you exposed in many different areas. You want to know how exposed you are and what you can do to prevent that. Of course, minimizing that exposure is having policies so people can know what to do, how to do it, who to call, and the next steps. And then, of course, you want to share these policies with your department managers and leaders. One thing that sucks about having policies and not having anybody know about them is that you can still have panic, but you've done all the research. So initially, when you get started down this pathway, you want to get your department heads involved so they know that it's coming. And then as you develop it, part of your procedures will be having your managers know so they can make sure that their team members know. So sharing them with your department managers and leaders within the organization is really key, getting them on board and making sure that everybody knows if there's this, do that. If it's just grab this book that says, here's our list of steps to take in event of a data failure. This drive has failed on the server. What are we going to do? If there's been a virus in accounting, what are we going to do? There was a phishing attack where somebody tried to send a wire money. What are we going to do? Instead of just saying, oh no, let's just wait and see if it goes through, or we see if once it goes through we can get it back, or well, let's just see if the insurance will cover it. If insurance says, well, you're supposed to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you didn't do that, then we're not going to cover the whole claim. You cover half of it, part of it. You don't want to have that happen, and we've seen it happen. We're going to be doing a webinar on that in the next couple of weeks, where we're going to be talking about cyber insurance policies, the pitfalls of having them, and what it takes to have a good claim processed. It's very important that people know this, especially as cyber attacks grow. More and more people are relying on cyber insurance as opposed to taking cyber security serious, assuming that their policies are going to bail them out, when the truth is they're not. You can apply for something, and we've had a client where they had a cyber attack. Their in-house IT department immediately just went to trying to resolve the issue, got a new server, tried to do backups on what they had, spent all this time doing things. And then they tried to send an invoice to their insurance underwriter saying, hey, we had a cyber attack. It was really bad. We had to get back up and running. We're still working on it, but we had to go buy this equipment. We had to hire these guys, and here's our claim. Well, the insurance carrier is going to say, well, if you did not go through these steps, which is making sure that you don't have it left on the network, identifying where it came in, patching that hardware or software that let it through, reevaluating your hardware and software. Are you updating your equipment and your software? These are things that cyber insurance companies are looking for, because if you're not adhering to that, then there's a good chance that your claim may not get processed, and you don't want to have that happen, because that can be very expensive. And then, of course, you want to review your policies on a regular basis. I mean, if you're going to have a successful policy, it can be accurate today, but as things change in your environment, whether you add new solutions, you make upgrades, whatever it may be, you want to review this accurately to make sure that it's accurate and on a regular basis. So if you check it out annually, just know where you are, review the policies. The more you review them and revise them and make improvements, the lower your exposure to risk. It's just part of the natural progress of having any kind of a policies in an evolving world such as cybersecurity. You got to keep reviewing it, because things are going to change. Now, many organizations begin with an incident response framework such as the NIST, which is the National Institute of Standards and Technology. This is a set of standards that we follow as a company here at HEED, and we do so because when we worked with organizations in the past and they follow under HIPAA and ISO, or various ISOs or PCI, yes, there are very strict regulations that they must adhere to, very strict guidelines, especially depending on, where you're dealing with patient information, you're dealing with a credit card information, whatever it is, there are guidelines. But there's those organizations that don't fall under those compliances, but still want to have a set of guidelines to adhere to. We have gone with the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and that is what most organizations follow who don't fall under an existing compliance standards. NIST has gone through and has created a framework for addressing cybersecurity within an organization, which starts with identifying the risk in your environment, protecting them with the right protection, whether it be your software or hardware, detecting things happening in your environment. So if you see attacks that are coming in, where they're coming in from, and then responding to those. And so knowing what you need to do in case something happens, you can respond to, again, it can be a simple virus, it can be malware, it can be ransomware, it can be a phishing attack. Whatever it is, you want to be able to respond to that, and then of course recover. Recover is the most important thing. When you got things are going to happen, you want to be able to recover afterwards. And so when you can recover from any kind of a cyber incident, that's what an organization wants to do. And so NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, has created a framework for you to follow. So if you want to develop your own cyber incident response plans, this is a framework that you can use for building your response plans. Now, of course, how can we help? Well, HEED, as an organization, we perform risk assessments. So we perform cyber risk assessments, we perform overall risk assessments, we perform business continuity assessments, and these are a combination of audits and scans and probes on your environment to get you your hardware, the software inventory, understand what you have. We meet with your department heads. We have our project managers come in and they understand the technology. So many times we can ask the right questions to know where your data is, what software are you guys using, document all that, document all your licensing, your product keys, so that in the event of a need to rebuild, you have all that information. We also project management. So we can do the risk assessment for you and hand it over to you, or we can also come in and help you with your project management, so we can work with your team to help get your incident response policies developed. So again, we can give you the information to build it. We can also help you build it, but we can also build it for you. And that means we can come in, do the risk assessments, get with the department heads, or make the recommendations, do the training, Make sure the policies are available for those departments that need to have them, whether it be on hard, like printed out, or at least electronic versions of things. So we can come through and go through the whole service for you and create the cyber incident response policies for your organizations. And of course, everything we do is compliant with NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology. So we offer NIST compliance as a service, which means that we not only just do the risk assessments and the incident response, but we also make changes to your network so that you can minimize your risk and making your response policies updated frequently, accurate, but also showing that you're covering your areas of exposure that were identified in the risk assessments. And then we offer those risk assessments on an ongoing basis. So the NIST compliance as a service is a very thorough approach to managing cyber risk for an organization proactively and not just waiting for things to happen. So what should you do today? Well, give us a call. Our phone number is 818-356-7187. You can reach us 24 hours a day. We're available all the time. You can either speak, well, you can ask myself if you have any specific cyber questions or anything like that. If you have anything about risk management specifically, Kelly is always available. We have other members of our team who will be joining us on future calls, but are available for any kind of insights into what you may need to get started on building your cyber incident response plans. You can go back to your team and decide that you're going to get busy with implementing a stronger cyber posture and see who's going to own the responsibility of building a cyber risk management policy for your organization. Get back to the team and say, hey, listen, guys, it may not be me, it could be me, but somebody needs to take cybersecurity serious for us. Otherwise, we can be blindsided by a very small attack. A very small attack can spread throughout your organization, costing it tens of thousands of dollars, even putting many organizations out of business. So go back and see who should do this for your organization. And then get company leadership on board, making sure that everybody knows, like, listen, we got to do this. We cannot take it lightly. Cybersecurity is a real threat, and if we don't pay attention, if we don't take it seriously, we could be out of business. Somebody's got to do it. You got to get leadership on board, because there will be expenses that come up. And when it comes to them understanding that this is more than just buying antivirus for the computers and getting tape backups, this is more than that. But when they understand the amount of risk involved and the cost of Bitcoin and trying to figure out when you got to pay a ransomware by tomorrow, you got to make that decision. You don't want to make those decisions under duress. So get leadership on board as soon as possible. And then, a lot of times organizations have got insurance policies because maybe the CFO bought it, or the CEO bought it, or the owner bought it, or maybe even somebody in IT bought it. But when you don't have any policies, people don't even know that you have these policies. You don't have a response policy. People won't know that you even have an insurance policy. So review your policies, understand what it takes to get a good claim, because they may say, hey, listen, you have to have response policies in certain scenarios, especially if they're going to be covering damages due to a system outage. If you could have prevented that, you need to be able to do so. Otherwise, you're only going to cover part of your claim if they even cover it at all. So review your cyber insurance policies and see what they're requiring for you to get a good claim, because you might be surprised to find out that if you don't have response plans in place, you could be a little short on your claim. Well, I want to thank everybody for attending. I know this is a Friday, and even though we don't really know what days of the week are nowadays, because everything's kind of blends into each other, Kelly, I think you and I can agree that it may be Friday, but it feels like a Tuesday, and it feels like a Sunday, and it feels like a Wednesday. So it's just Friday. But for now, we are going to leave you with this. If you guys have any questions, of course, you can reach us at 818-356-7187. You can email Kelly at Kpethea, Kpethea, at heedconsultinggroup.com. Myself at mbowers, mbowers, at heedconsultinggroup.com. Of course, you can check us out at heconsultinggroup.com, and you can scan the QR code you see on the screen. I want to thank everybody for attending, and thank you for your attention. Remember to stay calm out there, show up every day. Everything will be better. Until the next time, thank you for your time and attention. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.